นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังนัมมัสสามิอิโตปรังสักกะจังธัมโมโสตโพติ
So now we have the opportunity to listen to the Dhamma. So create samadhi, so make the mind in a centered and collected state while you're listening. Because if the mind has samadhi when listening, then the understanding that we get into the Dhamma becomes deeper. And it's possible that you can know and see into the Dhamma while you're listening. But if your mind is sent out to different things and it's not peaceful, then the knowing into the Dhamma that you gain will be little, and what you do gain will be unclear. And so this peace of mind is something that is important. It's like Venerable Anya Kondanya, when he listens to the Dhamma that the Buddha taught, and he gained stream entry, Sotapanna. But the other 4 out of the 5 ascetics, they weren't intent on listening, so they didn't get Dhamma. But afterwards, when they became intent, then they listened and contemplated, and in consecutive days, each of them attained to Sotapanna. So may all of you really be intent on listening. So to talk about the practice and this sense of self that we have, it's something that's difficult to be rid of. Pali for this is Sakkaya Ditthi, so this view of self which is very deeply ingrained within us. Really, the nature of things is that there's not a me, there's not things that belong to me, that everything arises from causes and conditions. So this body, for example, that it has causes and conditions which allow it to stay alive. If those causes and conditions undergo change, then illness arises. And when the causes and conditions are absent, then the body breaks apart. And that's just nature. It's something that our mind isn't able to control. So it's like Dighanakha Brahman, and he went to listen to the Dhamma of the Buddha. And the Buddha asked him, old age, sickness and death, do you like these things? And he responded, I don't like them. And so the Buddha asked, well, when you get old, when you experience illness, and when you die, will you be happy or upset? And the Brahman, he had just been seeking out things which he found agreeable. And anything which he felt was displeasing, he didn't want that. And so then he felt at ease, because he was always running away from these unpleasant sensations. But through that, no wisdom arose within him. But when the Buddha spoke to him like this, and then this wisdom arose into the nature of Sakkaya Ditthi, and that the body is not a self, it's not something that we can control. So we can contemplate this, how we can't control it, how the body ages just by itself, how it gets sick on its own accord, and it dies on its own accord. And perhaps we don't want it to get sick, but through the delusion that we have, we take that illness to be me as well. And so when the body gets old, then I'm getting old. When the body sickens, then it's me who's sick. When the body dies, then I am dying. And so sometimes there are these great teachers who are close to death. And on one of these occasions I went to bow to one of them to pay my respects, and I asked him, "How are you?" And he said, "I'm not anything." And this was really an incredible level of Dhamma that he spoke to, not being anything. And not long after that he passed away. But his mind wasn't anything. It just allowed the body to follow the course of nature, and he didn't take it to be himself. And so you can see there that wisdom had arisen within him. So when the mind is in a state of peace, when it's in samadhi, and then these masters, and they teach us to contemplate the body when the mind comes out of that state. And sometimes this is a thing that we can overlook. We gain samadhi already, and we just want to contemplate the mind, want to look at the mind, just want to attain very quickly. But the thing is that our samadhi isn't enough for that. If our samadhi was really firm, if it was to a great level and really strong, like Subhata before he attained arahantship, that he had this incredibly firm and powerful samadhi. And so then he could look into his mind and see the objects of the mind, see the mind itself, and compared this to the moon, and how when a cloud covers over the moon, then its brightness gets diminished. And he saw that the objects within the mind are the same way. And through that he could attain to the Dhamma, seeing into this nature of not self, seeing how it's merely a mind, merely objects of the mind. But the thing is, for us, our samadhi isn't to that degree. But we can get deluded that it is, that I have a great level of samadhi, because we've never experienced it before. I think the mind experiences bliss and becomes very peaceful, perhaps even for an entire month. And there can be this joy and a deep sense of inner fulfillment and contentment. And then we can think, well, I don't need to contemplate the body anymore. And so this is how I would think, thinking that this body is something that's coarse, and I don't want to be a coarse person. And perhaps we'd read the scriptures, and in the scriptures it says that contemplating the body is for people who have very coarse lust. But I wanted to be someone with wisdom. And they say that if someone with coarse wisdom, they contemplate the mind. If it's someone with refined wisdom, then they contemplate the Dhamma. So one of Venerable Ajahn Chah's teachers, Ajahn Tongrat, he could see the Dhamma in this way. And third, once he was on alms round, and there was an old grandmother in the village, and she wasn't offering food to him. So he called out to her and said, "Hey, grandmother, come and offer some food." And when he said that, she got really angry and started shouting. And then Ajahn Tongrat, he got down onto his knees and bowed. And the people around, they asked him, well, how could you bow to a layperson like this? And he said, I'm not bowing to this person, I'm bowing to the Dhamma. That all of this is Dhamma. That greed is Dhamma, anger is Dhamma, delusion, it's Dhamma. So therefore he had this wisdom to be able to contemplate the Dhamma to that degree. And our perfectly self-awakened Buddha, You could also contemplate into the Dhamma, seeing this cycle of dependent origination, and seeing this in a very profound way, a very clear way within his heart. But for the average person, it's difficult for them to see this. But the Buddha could. In his awakening, could see how sankharas, these conditioned phenomena, and then go on to give rise to vijnana, sense consciousness. In each step of the cycle of dependent arising, that he saw clearly into all of that. But if it's someone with a little bit of wisdom, they can't do that, and they're not able to really contemplate the mind. So for the most part, people in this day and age, and this is both for monastics and for lay people, are ones who have this delight or seeking out pleasure in forms. So contemplating Vedana feelings is something which is difficult to do. So therefore we should contemplate the body first. So when we have these thick defilements, then we need to look into the body. Because this is something that, right from the time that we were born, we've thought of it as being beautiful. And there is this chant of going through the 32 parts of the body that we recite. And how this body, right up from the soles of the feet and down from the crown of the head, is a sealed bag of skin filled with unclean things. So this is the Dhamma that we are reciting. But even though we say that, we still feel like bodies are beautiful, both ours and those of others. So even though we have to wash these bodies every day, we have to shower them, we have to brush our teeth, even though when we put cloth onto our body in not long time it becomes dirty, still we take these things to be clean. So the monks contemplate their robes and how initially our robes are clean things, but when they come in contact with the body then they become dirty. Or like food in a good state, delicious, and that as soon as we put that in the mouth it becomes dirty. It gets mixed up with all the fluids, the saliva, the digestive fluids within the mouth. And also our mouths become dirty as well, as they have bacteria in them, and then when this food comes, the bacteria starts to work away at it. And then when that food goes into the stomach, it gets mixed up with all of the fluids in the stomach. And if we were to bring that up out of our bodies, we wouldn't be able to stand it. It wouldn't be something that we'd be in the slightest desire to eat, because it has all these other liquids mixed up with it. Or like the clean water that we put into the body, and when that liquid comes out, it's not clean anymore. The oxygen that we take in, that comes out is carbon dioxide. And there's the fire, that's the fire element, which is burning the things that come into the body. And if that heat reduces, then it starts to rot. So we contemplate the hair of the head, hair of the body, the nails, the teeth, the skin. And see how if we don't clean these things, if we don't wash them, then how are we able to live? The bacteria start performing their duty of breaking these things down, and this gives off a very pungent odor. And so with the contemplation of the 32 parts of the body, this is looking at the body through the lens of it being unbeautiful. If we were to change that, Or if we were to look at the body through the lens of its changing nature, then this is contemplating into anicca, dukkha, anatta, so that nature of change, of stress, of being not self. But before we are able to get to this level of wisdom, we should look at it as being unattractive first. So how the hair, something that we think of as being beautiful, but if we just touch our head with our hand and we brush our hand through our hair, then what comes off is all this oil onto our hands. And that's unpleasant for us, we don't like that. Or if we put some hair into some food, then that becomes unclean. Or we put that hair into a glass of water, and very quickly we see that there is this oil floating on the surface. And we see it's not clean, not beautiful anymore. Or like when the monks shave their heads, and the water, the little kind of bucket of water that they use to shave their heads with, and then when the hair goes into that, the oil from the head floats to the surface. And this hair, it has blood as that which is nourishing it. So the hair of the head is like this, the rest of the hair on the body is also like this. And there's the skin. And if we pull off the skin covering this body, what we'll see underneath is redness, because there's all this blood throughout the body. There's also the sweat that gets exuded from the skin. And if we don't shower to wash that off, then we won't be able to stand it, that the body's all sticky. And the cloth that comes into contact with the body becomes unclean through that sweat as well. And so therefore we need to be washing our cloths very frequently. If we contemplate more deeply and we take off the skin, then what we see is the bones underneath. So on our heads, for example, there's the skull there, and then if we remove the skull, there's a brain, which is like a bunch of macaroni come together. And with the rest of the body, if we cut that up, if we dissect it, and then there's a heart there, there's lungs, there's the intestines, the kidneys, the liver, and the whole thing is filled with blood. And so this body, it's not just a solid, consistent mass, but rather it contains all these different organs. And we say there's 32 parts to the body. So the hair of the head, the hair of the body, the nails, the teeth, the skin, these are 5 external parts, and there's 27 internal parts. And blood is flowing out through the whole thing. So where can we find beauty within all of that? We can't find it there. So this contemplation into the body's unattractive nature is for the sake of bringing peace and stillness to the mind. Because sometimes if we just feel this delight and pleasure towards bodies, then that state, that mood, it brings the heart down into a sad, gloomy state. And so if we then contemplate the body as being not beautiful, then that lifts the mind up and brings it to stillness and peace, and samadhi can arise. That if we see it as being not beautiful, then the heart becomes more and more beautiful. It becomes brighter. So these two are opposed to each other. And if we see the body as being attractive, the heart becomes dark. And if it's just to one degree, then that's still okay. in that we're able to maintain our virtue and morality. But if that grows and grows, then this can become very tough, because it can get into a state where the lust becomes uncontrollable and the mind falls into an animal state. So therefore we need to control our minds, need to have mindfulness, need to be aware, need to know that there is lust present in the mind. There's this raga, this lust, this delight, the seeking of gratification in bodies or in the senses. But this doesn't refer just to bodies. This raga, it's all kinds of this pleasure seeking in forms and sounds and odors and tastes and tactile sensations, and even the moods or the objects of the mind, that if we feel pleasure towards them, then that too is raga. And when this grows and grows, it becomes a fire which really heats our heart. If it's anger, then that fire is easier for us to see. It's something that comes up and then it goes quite quickly. But this raga, this lust, it's like a cool fire which surrounds the heart. So therefore, the great teachers, they taught us to contemplate the body and how it's not something beautiful. That we can pick up each of these 32 parts and look at them. So when we contemplate like that, then we'll get the sense of ease within the heart. And through this contemplation. So it's something that we should do very frequently. So like looking at the body as just being a skeleton, that wherever we touch our bodies, that there's bones underneath. That if we peel off the skin, then what we'll find is a skeleton. And within this skeleton, so where is beauty to be found? Like the teeth within our mouths, these are just bones which are lodged into their individual slots within the mouth. But is there any genuine beauty in that? Even though we brush our teeth and look after them very well, and can we really find any beauty there? And how much we look after the body, if we peel off the skin, all that's left is bones, a skeleton underneath. And it's just calcium. So if we see it in this way, then the mind doesn't become agitated, but rather it becomes still and peaceful, comes into a state of samadhi. And this is something that lay people are able to do as well, that you too can contemplate this, see the body as just being a skeleton. And as you carry on training like this, and gaining this feeling, contemplating like this, and then the mind becomes at ease. And then we feel like when we're walking, we see other people walking, it's just bones that are moving around. Just bones going back and forth. And this can become a visual image which can be present for a long time in our mind's eye. Like at the time of the Buddha, there was a senior monk who was contemplating bones. And he was walking through the forest, and not far away there was a couple who were arguing with each other, and the wife just walked off, and she walked past the senior monk, and the monk just saw a skeleton. Not long after that, the husband walked past and said, "Did you see my wife?" And the senior monk said, I didn't see any women, I just saw a skeleton walking past. And so he had created his samadhi to this degree, where he had these nimittas arise, this ukaha nimitta, patipana nimitta. But in the beginning we need to use sannyas, memory or perception of the body's unattractive nature first. Contemplate into this body, cut this body up, in order to bring the mind to peace, for joy to arise, for samadhi to arise, for the heart to become beautiful, for the body and the mind to feel buoyant and light, to see the truth, to know the truth. And we can really understand this for ourselves, in understanding that beauty, it's really not there at all, that it's just this way, it's just like this. And see the body as a ghost in the waiting, see it as a breathing corpse. And the mind can become at ease, can become still and peaceful. And as we become more and more skilled at this, then we can start seeing the body break apart, decay as well. See it as being just composed of natural elements, which in turn break apart, and we see emptiness, and see anicca, dukkha, anatta right there. And so here we're beginning to see into the Dhamma, into this nature of emptiness, that wisdom is arising. That this is vipassana, this clear insight coming up already. So therefore, when the mind is in a peaceful state, and we feel like the body and the heart are light and at ease, and Ajahn Chah taught us to contemplate the body, don't look elsewhere. But the thing is, when our minds are in peace, when we have some samadhi, then we can get quite stubborn. And we can think that we just want to attain arahantship quickly, and so therefore we're only going to contemplate the mind. So we need to be careful of this. These are the defilements coming to trick us already. So this is something that great teachers can help us with. And they can point us in the right direction, telling us, contemplate this body, see the body with clarity, go through it. And when we do that, then we'll be able to gain clarity and understanding into it. And then when that happens, then we can feel this great ease within the heart for even 6 months, that there's a lightness to the body and the mind. Whenever we're standing, walking, sitting, lying down, then the mind is constantly in a state of samadhi. And so with this samadhi then present in the mind and using that to contemplate the body, then we can see into it again, but see it with greater clarity this time. Gain this understanding there. However, in the beginning, we don't see clearly into our bodies, that they're not me. So therefore we need to forbear first and just carry on with our efforts, carry on practicing, carry on examining the body. So we can look at the breath, for example, and then when we've done that, you come back to the body and contemplate it as being unattractive or a collection of elements. And one day, if we do that, then we will know and understand. And this arises little by little, until in the end it all gathers together. You see the body is merely a body. It's not a being, not a self, not an individual. It's not me, it's not you. And it's this suchness, seeing it as being such, which is important. And it's this which is able to extract the sakkaya ditthi, the self-view, from the heart. So when sitting in meditation, perhaps we contemplate and we're able to let go of the sense of self. But then when we come out of that samadhi, the sense of self arises again. But then we tell ourselves that, well, we know in the hour that's passed there wasn't a sense of self there. But now in the next hour there is a sense of self. And so we teach ourselves, well, it's not like this, that the sense of self is just a convention. If sickness arises, for example, then we're not able to control that. And then the heart can become clear and at peace. And as we carry on doing that, then we're able to cut off the defilements, this sakaya ditthi, that which binds our hearts. That wisdom can arise. And when wisdom comes up, it can cut this fetter thread by thread. And the mind becomes empty. We see Nibbana clearly. And we see, oh, this is what it's like. The mind that's empty is like this. But then the defilements arise again. So they come up, then we cut away at them again. And we carry on going like this until sila, samadhi and panya really come together. And we see clearly, we know clearly. So really try to do this and put your efforts into your practice. You have to forbear in the beginning. But one day you will see. But there's no need to ask yourself, well, how many months will it take? When will I get to see this? There's no need to do that, no need to think about that, no need to count in that way. Because we've been deluded for such a long time already. So however much knowledge we're able to give rise to, then we give rise to that much. And one day we will see clearly. So may you set your heart on this, and may you grow in blessings.